Scott Bass, we're going to kick it off with Colby Plus because we love Colby Plus.
Yeah, look, Colby Plus. As I understand it, they have those dry wet bags available now, which is crucial for your surf travel plans. And of course, Colby Plus wetsuits. Heck to the yes.
Saw Strider was rocking the dry bag in Tahiti at the WSL event. Had it on his Instagram account. So they are the best in the biz. The thing with Colby, the whole kind of concept of the business is using super premium ingredient for that category. So, Yamamoto rubber for the wetsuits. And then for the dry bags, I forget the name of the material, but it's the same exact idea. And then just making, good quality bag out of the best quality material. And so they just introduced the bags. Tie Zip is the name of the waterproof and airtight premium zipper product for the bags. But we've been waiting for the bags for months now. They finally landed. They are out in the public. They are incredible. So Colby is spelled Colby, colbyplus.com. Wetsuits, accessories, and now bags as well.
Well, look, unreal. We love our Colby Plus, and what you're getting is the highest quality materials, sans all of the marketing and
Exactly.
BS markup that you get with some of the other brands. So it's a total no brainer.
Yeah, cut out middleman number one and two. And then, of course, Real Water Sports for any and all of your water sport needs, whether it's surfing, foiling, kiting, in and out of the water, in fact. So they have incredible deals. They'll ship it to you anywhere in the world, based in North Carolina, but they will ship to you anywhere in the world for one low flat fee for boards and often free for the soft good products. So they're a phenomenal resource.
Yeah, Real Water Sports. David and I have been talking about it for years. An incredible website with a plethora of hard goods and soft goods. And if you're a hardcore surfer like we are, it's a lot of fun to peruse their site and check out all their gear. And of course, ding, place an order, my friend.
All right, realwatersports.com.
As we see some movement at the takeoff zone, it's Kelly Slater grabbing rail.
Yeah, guy, David. Oh my, it is January 10th. It is Spit. The year 2024, we talk all things surf here on the Spit podcast. And David Lee Scales and Scott Bass with you. Good morning, David, dear citizen.
Welcome back to the US, Scott. Scott was in Indonesia last week, so this show is just a few days behind schedule, 5 days behind schedule or so. But look, he was traveling for 3 days straight. It is no joke getting to and from Indo.
Yeah, it's a bit of a grind. I mean, I think you can even look in my eyes and see that I'm a little bit spaced out. At least I notice it. But yeah, we're back and we're excited about being back and being back with you and all the listeners. And yeah, Indonesia, man. Holy mackerel.
So are you recovered? When did you get home?
No, I got back late Friday night. So it takes me, I always book a solid week after the trip to just kind of like meld back into the thing. I mean, I've got so much work to do. I'm excited about that, but I'm a little bit fried. I'm waking up at 2 a.m. and, takes a little bit to get back into the swing of things.
Yeah, totally understandable. Last we spoke, you'd gotten overhead days, but it was a lay day when we recorded our last podcast, meaning it was chest high and still really good. Did a second swell come for the back half of the trip?
It did. Oh my God. We got such insane waves. And there was one day, I mean, there was just day after day after day, but there was one day where it was pumping and I was the only guy out. I was the only guest in the water. And me and two of the surf guides, and they were just basically, because I'm one of the guests, they're like, which one do you want? They were just like giving me my pick of the litter of these pretty solid set waves. And it was, for me, it was kind of like heart in the throat, right where I want to be, super exciting. Every wave was exciting. Every wave was had the potential for disaster or the potential for glory. And we got a little bit of both. And so it was a ton of fun. And I mean, I had basically like the session of my life.
No way.
Yeah. So just like, solid 6 to 8 foot and just barrels. You're either making it out or you're not, or maybe you're not even making the drop because it's kind of a gnarly little thing and it's shallow. And it was just a ton of fun, and it was pretty incredible. And frankly, it's kind of like, it's like, gosh, am I going to go back to Indo? At my age, was this my last trip? I don't know. I have a little suffering from some melancholia.
Mm. Why were you the only guest in the water? Was it too challenging for everybody else?
Yeah,
Got it.
basically. There's other waves where you can go and get solid, rippable, shreddable, more sort of performance turn oriented. Like where I was surfing, it was like take off and set up for the tube or not, like, and you have to race it and every wave isn't makeable. And it's very shallow. And so, it's not, you know, it's an experts only situation.
Um, you said this was the session of your life. Are you qualifying that by, for my age, still perform, or would this compete with sessions that you had in your 20s?
No, I think it would compete, with
That's got to
session.
feel
I mean, I've surfed
amazing.
bigger, I've surfed larger waves, but as far as like sort of this one checked off all the, all the little bullet points like sunny, beautifully tropical, no one out, 6 to 8 foot, spitting tubes over shallow reef, very challenging, consequential. I got scraped up. I've been beat up by the reef, so it was good. But again, I mean, I'm not saying that I'm some special surfer or anything. But for me, it was,
Well,
I mean, there's a billion great surfers that would just consider this a normal surf session. But for me, it was very exciting.
the reason why I'm asking though is to be able to perform at the level that you want to perform at into your 50s is an ongoing conversation that I have on Surf Splendor, whether it's Felipe Pomar and Jeff Hackman, or I was talking to Britt Merrick 2 weeks ago, and he was just talking about losing his quote pop up. If he doesn't surf for a month, it's like, oh my gosh, he feels the effects. And that's a spot where the waves that you're talking about are a spot where that's the most essential thing is getting to your feet in a timely fashion. Um, and so what you do in your day-to-day life to put yourself into position to be able to perform at the level you can when you do that once a year surf trip and the waves actually show up and the swell shows up is the conversation, like the hard
Yeah,
75 that you've been talking about or the drinkag1.com/surf, like those things.
yeah, all of that stuff. I mean, I think the most important thing is, well, look, I'm not like a professional trainer or anything, but
No.
when you mention AG1, I do think that what at our age, or not your age, but at my age, what we put in our bodies is probably the most overlooked and the most important. It's
Yeah.
so easy to just have pizza and burritos, which I did for years, and it caught up with me. And so, yeah, what you put in, but you're right. I mean, it's an ongoing, I don't want to say grind, but it's a lifestyle commitment that you have to make. And if you're going to continue to go and really even surf around here in California,
Yeah.
as Britt mentioned, it's much harder to get to your feet on a 2 to 3 foot crumbly wave than it is on a 6 to 8 foot perfect wave because it kind of pushes you to your feet when it's like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, Britt's right. It's tough if you don't put in the work and you lay off for a month or so, and to expect to get back into the ball game like when you're 25 years old, it just doesn't happen. And
Well,
yeah, so yeah.
the other thing that I'm learning is it's not a grind. Like I actually prefer to live the disciplined life that you're talking about. When I was in my 30s or 20s, it felt like a grind because I didn't have consequence from eating the burrito or the French fries or whatever. But now there is consequence, and I feel lethargic the next day, and I'm not able to do the things that I want to do. But when I'm actually on the disciplined program, I have tons of energy. I feel great. I'm executing. I'm doing the things I want to do at the end of the day. I sleep incredibly well because of it. And that's worth it. Like the results make it feel like it's not a chore anymore. I just want to do those things and I don't crave the bad things anymore.
Yeah, you bring up a great point. I'm the same way. Like I wake up and I'm looking forward to whatever it is, if it's my yoga or whatever.
Yeah.
But and if I don't do that, you're like, oh man, I didn't do that thing today,
Right.
that's part of the routine. And you notice it in your sleep, like if you don't
Yeah,
get a
totally.
workout, you don't sleep as well. So there's, I recall saying, like when I was 35, I'd be like, well, 35 is the new 25. And when I was 45, I would be like, oh, 45 is the new 35, but when you reach 50, you can try to rationalize as much as you want, but you got to put in the work. And for me, that often meant, okay, you got to get a longboard. Like if you're going to surf year round, you're going to be in crappy surf and you're going to be going in the water, as you and I have mentioned many times, for the exercise of it rather than for like some quality of wave that you're going to get. You just got to get wet and keep your arms moving and get up to your feet.
Yeah.
And so the real blessing of the riding the foils is that now I'm excited about small days. And I wasn't excited about small days when I had and I mean, I've got my 11-foot gliders out here, but it's just like, okay, it's a big heavy thing and it's thick
Yeah.
waves and you're going slow, but on a foil, you're going so fast. So I guess what I'm getting at is the foil is the kind of reignited, the ability to get in the water and be excited about it. Where in the past it was kind of like, okay, should I go for a swim at the pool or should I take out the glider? Now it's kind of like, oh, I'm going to go take the foil out and,
Yeah.
ton of
Well,
fun.
speaking of what you put in your body, I know you're scheduled to talk to Liz Clark coming up. Her book Swell, really, really popular book, and phenomenal book. It's being released or it just got released in paperback. So people should go grab that. It's through Patagonia Books. But one thing you could do a deeper dive with her, I barely asked her about it, but it's kind of towards the end of the book. She talked about she had chronic illness growing up, where she was always around hospitals and had access to them. And then as a result, was medicated for various things and just kind of constantly, she just thought she had a weak immune system because she would catch every little cold that came through and just constantly dealing with doctors and medications, stuff like that. After a short period of time on the boat and being removed from Western medicine, she didn't have access to those things. And ultimately, her diet shifted drastically. She wasn't eating processed foods. She was eating what she had access to, which was fresh fish and vegetables when you were near land. And all of her chronic illness that she had dealt with for 2 decades of her life, 2.5 decades of her life, went away. And it was a result of what she was putting in her body. And she's maintained that same lifestyle or dietary lifestyle since being on the boat. And she hasn't dealt with sickness at all.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I've been sort of wondering what I'm going to ask her. I had a series of questions. I read the book. I loved it. I really enjoyed it. And for the lack of sounding, I don't know how I'm going to sound when I say this, but I'm going to say that I feel like every young girl should read this book.
Yeah.
Now, is that misogynistic or paternalistic or gender? Because and I'm not saying every young boy shouldn't read it. I think every young boy should read it too. And I enjoyed the shit out of that book. And I emoted a few times when I read that book because I'm a father, so I had
Yeah.
a lot of times when the father-daughter situation arose, I got kind of emotive.
Well, let me ask you, I don't think it's paternalistic or misogynistic, but why do you think every young girl should
Well,
read the book?
because she's so open about situations that she went through. Like she's very open about, she had an abortion. She's open about just stuff that I think a lot of young girls deal with, like trying to compare herself, to others, which I think maybe is a deeper problem for young girls than it is for young boys. I don't know,
Yeah.
but again, I don't want to speak like some sort of expert in the field of this stuff, but I just remember reading it and going, gosh, I hope my daughter reads this, because
Yeah.
it was really this, like, she had to break outside the mold. I mean, it's hard enough to just get on a sailboat and sail down to Mexico and then sail to Fiji or Polynesia as a guy, but to do it as a female, there's a lot of barriers that had to be broken, a lot of internal struggle, a lot of looking inward and going, can I do this? Am I capable of doing this? And pretty powerful, I thought.
Yeah, totally. I think you should actually open the conversation with the exact question of, I feel like every young girl should read that. Does that make me paternalistic? And
Yeah.
let her answer it and address it, and then
Yeah.
explain exactly what you just explained to me of why
Yeah.
you feel that way.
Yeah.
And I think she'd love to engage in that conversation. And also, her relationship with her father is really, really strong. And in fact, the way that her father and mother raised her empowered her to actually take on the world in those ways, and she's fully recognizes that and appreciates them for it and has a lot of gratitude for them putting her in the situation that she was in. And so she would love to engage with you as a father from the fatherly perspective.
Yeah. Well, good. I want to do that. And I was wondering, like, is she a mother? Has
No,
she? No. Okay. Well,
but
anyway.
she got married in 2018, I believe, and they bought, he's Tahitian, and they bought land, so she's based in Tahiti now and like lives on land and all that.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Well, that's going to be
The
fun. I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to chatting with her. And I did a deep podcast with the owner of the guy the founder of Surfing Village there in the Telos in Indonesia that I'm putting together. It was like one of these long, Dick Metz style, you know, two
Yeah.
and a half, 3 hour podcasts where he kind of, um, he just basically gave me the origin story of how he got to where he got, and
Yeah.
that should be, I don't want to oversell it. It could be interesting. He's got a pretty thick accent, so we'll see how it goes. But
Where is he from?
he's from Brazil.
Okay.
Yeah, Paulo from Brazil, and it's a really fascinating story. I mean, you know, it's one of
Yeah.
these things where it's like, it's not something that for the faint of heart, to just travel in Indonesia and try to find a place to set up a surf camp. It's
I
pretty,
know. I I I don't fantasize about it, but I often think about an alternative lifestyle, like doing what Liz Clark did in your 20, like if you could rewind the tape and in your 20s, just spend a decade doing something radically different, you know?
yeah.
Um, it's an it's an interesting thought exercise. I would like to have done it, you know?
Yeah, it's fascinating. There's always people around you. It seems like with Liz for sure, like the professor guy at UCSB that kind of was like was her mentor,
Yeah.
her sailing mentor, and I think helped her fiscally as well. Like there's people that were, and you mentioned her parents, of course, and um, but at the end of the day, I mean, that one last leg she does, I think from the Kiribati Islands back to Tahiti, where she just gets pounded and she's about to give up, and she's trying to make it into safe harbor before the sun sets, and it's just a grind. I mean, it, it
It's
that
relentless.
takes a lot of courage, man.
Totally. Yeah. There's never, like, you think you see photos of her lounging in a hammock on the sailboat and all that,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
jumping off and going surfing. The reality is you're never relaxing. Even if you take a moment to be on the hammock, you're still processing 3 dozen things that need to get done or should have been done already and all that. And when you're surfing, you're not thinking about the surfing, you're thinking about the boat and everything and the next leg of the journey. And just, there's no relaxing full,
yeah,
for a decade.
yeah. It's pretty crazy. So
It's gnarly. Anyways, great job being fit enough to go get barreled in Indonesia at your age. And
I'll
it's
send you
sad to
some photos.
yeah, send me. It's sad to think that you'd be considering this as your final trip. I don't know what limitation there is in your diet or exercise that would prevent another one.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's my final trip, but
You pushed yourself to the limit.
well, there's a couple things. One, I'm not sure I can ever get it better than I got it.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
got it pumping, and two different swells, and basically surfing by myself the whole time.
Yeah.
And frankly, it's a little selfish at this point in my life to just be going off on surf trips. I want to I look forward to traveling with my wife and going to other places that aren't necessarily surf specific.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that. I mean, I've been surf traveling for a long time,
Yep.
And so I almost feel like this is like the sprinkles, like Divine used to always say, oh, put the icing on the cake and this is the sprinkles and the cherry. And I feel like I got the sprinkles and the strawberries on the cake, and it's like ready to, like it's not going
Yeah.
to get better than what I just got. You know
Yep.
what I mean?
Good. Yeah, that's the healthy perspective to have. And if another trip presents itself and you end up scoring again, fantastic. But you can't ask for more than what you just got.
David, I have another episode of your favorite game
I can't
called
wait. Who said this?
Who Said This? Who said that? Who said this?
Who
Who
said
said that?
that?
Um,
Well, should I be reading my Matt Warshaw newsletters more diligently?
couldn't hurt, but this one doesn't really come from his recent newsletter. But for those of you listening, do yourself a favor. First of all, you should subscribe to the Encyclopedia of Surfing, eos.surf. And then when you do that, you can sign up for Matt's newsletters that he sends out every Sunday. But this, I'm going to say the question that was asked of this person, then I'm going to give his response. And this time I broke it down, and I'm going to give you 3 choices. Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate the choices.
Yeah. Okay. So here's the question. The question is, do you make conscious stylistic adjustments to different wave conditions? And the respondent said this: there's no conscious adjustment style wise, but there's an adjustment board wise. The style is not a reflection of the solution. The type of board used is the solution. My line of thought is the same for any wave I encounter, big or small, clean or mushy, burley or sunset. I follow the same maneuver pattern. Let's bash off this lip, cut back here, et cetera, et cetera. The only thing that changes is the tool underneath me. The surfboard is the variable. David, who said that? A, was it Mark Richards? B, was it Jeff Hackman? Or C, was it Tom Carroll? Who said
I
that?
mean,
Do, do, do,
um,
do, do, do,
so
do, do, do,
I'm going to
do.
throw away Carol. The sunset reference makes me feel like Hackman, obviously, but the Burley reference, I don't think of Hackman as referencing Burley ever. I mean, I'm sure he spent time in Australia, but that's an indicator as well, which makes me lean towards Mark Richards. Mark Richards is also a surfboard shaper, so he would be specifically pointing to the board, or you could just be throwing that at me as a red herring, throwing a surfboard shaper in the mix. Final answer, Mark Richards.
You, sir, are correct. Mark
Yes.
Richards is exactly who said that. The only thing that changes is the tool underneath my feet. The surfboard is the variable. I surf the same way, or I try to surf the same way on every wave.
So I love that quote, by the way.
Yeah, I know. I do too, because obviously it speaks to you and I and our love for the surfboard building industry, of which you and I are a part of. And of course, well, as you know, perhaps Mark Richards is in California right now. I think I don't know if he's here yet, but he'll be here soon, like this month, within the week, perhaps. And he's at the Lost Surfboard compound with Matt Biolis, and he's taking custom orders. So it's an incredible chance to get a brand new board and meet Mark Richards, who you know is a super cool guy, one of the boardroom's icons of foam from, I think, the year 2010. And I mean, what a great opportunity to get a surfboard from friggin' 4-time world champion, incredible surfboard shaper, Mark Richards. And I'm not talking about, I mean, you can get whatever you want, but I mean, Mark Richards loves to make contemporary state-of-the-art surfboards for right now. You know what I mean? Like, certainly you could get one of his classic boards, but I'm sure that he would much rather make you something that's going to be working in the water at lowers or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, Mark Richards.
Well, great quote. And the reason why I like that quote is just because it's accurate. Like, that is it for anybody at any stage of surfing. You should take that quote to heart and understand that, like, that is putting the trust in the board, not trying to over surfboards, not trying to, enforce your will upon the wave. It's just let the board do the work, get the right board for the right wave, and the board will find its way if it was designed for that wave. and you just ride it.
Yeah, it's interesting that you threw out Tom Carroll right away, because Sunset Beach, Tom Carroll backside at Sunset Beach was a force. He was pretty incredible. And of the two Australians, neither MR or Tom Carroll is really a burly guy. Of course,
No.
Mark's from, what's that?
Newcastle.
Yeah, exactly. And Tom down from in Sydney. And so now, what is Mark Richards' connection to Burley Heads?
I don't have one.
He won the Stubbies at Burley Heads, the first man-on-man event there that Peter Druin put together. I want to say it was 78. And I think he was in the final with Dan Kealoha. And I could be wrong on all of these facts, by the way, in which point they wouldn't be facts, but I'm pretty sure that he won at Burley Heads in 78.
Well, one thing I'll bring up in reference to my most recent episode of Surf Splendor, where I interviewed Devin Howard, he's been talking to me for like 2 years. He wanted to have this conversation on air about style. And it was all kind of prompted by an article that Scott Hewlett had written at some point. And the premise of the article was look back at like ancient Greek statues and the way that their stance is from, I mean, you could even the Statue of David, which isn't Greek, but the Statue of David, or just think back, look at any of them, Google search, and the way that they're standing, the posture that they're holding is very, very similar to a surfer's posture. And so style is, there's certain lines of, let's say, a car that just look right. There's certain architecture, homes that just look right visually. For human beings and their body types, there's certain ways of standing and posturing yourself that just looks, quote, stylish. And it's kind of hard to define, but you know it when you see it. And it's not just when you're standing on a surfboard. It also is when you're standing, or a bullfighter, a certain flair that a bullfighter has, or a dancer on stage. There's a commonality among their body postures. And it turns out that if the board is correctly designed for a given wave, the board's going to find trim, and the board's going to ride in the most powerful part of the wave where all the energy is. And so your job as a surfer is to stand there and harness it. Like prior to being able to turn surfboards in the 70s, the really only measure of a surfer was style, because essentially you're going straight. And so if you can harness, the board finds trim or the barrel, and you can harness that and ride deeper in the barrel, the style is actually a reflection of function at that point, because again, the board knows where to go. You need to harness it. And so if you do that correctly, it happens to be stylish. So style isn't something that you're imposing on the board or trying to do. It's not a pose. It's the opposite. It's if everything is working flawlessly and you are just in harmony with the wave and the energy of the wave, and the board is finding that right spot, then you will be stylish as a reflection of it.
Wow, that's very interesting. And it made me realize that when you see somebody in a deep tube, it's very rare that they look like they don't have good style. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But when you see somebody on a 3-foot crappy wave out on the shoulder trying to do a cutback, that's sort of like, okay, like that doesn't look good. Like maybe, like there's an opportunity for the sort of the bad aesthetic to come shining through there.
Well, we talk about bottom turn oftentimes as like a way to define style, or like the thing that we can discuss to best explain the good style versus bad style. But the reality is the tube is a better example, because you're right. There's no way you're making a critical tube if you are not in the most functional position. And when you are in the most functional position, again, style follows. So if you think about hinging over at the hips, just bending over and sticking your head in the tube like a head dip.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
There's no chance you're making the barrel.
No.
There's just no chance. Maybe at Surf Ranch and, or something there. Even then, I don't think you would make it.
Yeah.
But when you think about the way that Tom Curran's body, just think of him at J Bay, like getting in a tube, that is the most functional. You are centered over your board, you're seated low into your hips, and you're basically just propelling all the energy of the wave that the board is is feeling, you are just kind of propelling that forward like a cannonball. And it looks killer. It looks insanely stylish.
Yeah, it's a great point, and it made me think about something I wanted to talk to you about, which is Kelly Slater this year at Kira. I think it was in February or March. There was one or two waves of him and Kira when and I would love to hear Kelly's take on this, but I think he did his best surfing of his entire life on those two waves. And I know you remember the session.
Oh my
He's
God.
absolutely ripping. Like I think it's the best surfing he's ever done at
I
the
saw
age
that
54 or whatever, however old he is. It was incredible.
I saw that cutback just again this past week. Somebody reposted it, and I was like, I agree with you. That was the best roundhouse cutback to rebound I've ever seen.
That Kelly Slater's ever done, and he's the GOAT. Like that, you know what I mean? Like, I would love to get his take on that. I think that's the best surfing he's ever done in his life.
Interesting. Well, you and
he
he
probably
both
wouldn't agree. Huh? I'm sorry, go ahead.
You and he both into your 50s having the best session of your life.
Oh, well, you know, don't put me in his category. He's way ahead of me.
But it is the year of the 50-year-old, man. Yeah, that's a fascinating concept to really deconstruct, and I couldn't disagree with you. I mean, I think he would argue surfing 10-foot barreling something would be way better than what he's talking about. But in terms of high performance, I mean, that might have been the best turn he's ever done in his life for sure.
Well, there was two ways. I mean, he got some incredible tubes, obviously, Akira, and came out and did that round, you know, so it wasn't like he was on a mushy wave.
No, I know, but
yeah,
even Topu or Pipeline, I think he would list as better. But I mean, I'm not arguing with you. I agree with you. It's really interesting. Rocketmoney.com/surf. Just this week, my wife figured out she was paying a subscription for Showtime, but then also paying for Paramount Plus, which includes Showtime for free. That's precisely what Rocket Money was designed for. A modern tool that meticulously tracks the details that we easily get distracted from. It's a finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your monthly spending, and helps you lower your bills. It gives you freedom by helping you see your subscriptions in a simple dashboard and alerts you about hidden fees or increases. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has helped save its members an average of $720 a year with over $500 million in canceled subscriptions. Stop wasting money on things that you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions by going to rocketmoney.com/surf. Calm the clutter in your head, simplify the tedium of your financial life, and find freedom through rocketmoney.com/surf. Driftline.co promo code SPIT will save you 15% off a pair of drifties, Scott.
Well, you may or may not have seen some of the photos that I've posted from my trip, but guess what is a constant in each and every photo? I could either be going over the falls, I could be purling up to my neck, I could be getting like a chandelier little head dip. Each and every wave, I'm wearing my Drifties by Driftline. I absolutely love them. And, you know, they come with that 0.5 millimeter wetsuit liner, super comfortable. And of course, all the fashion of a standard board short. And Drifties by driftline.co. That's the board short that I'm wearing and will wear all summer long.
Has any pair of drifties on the planet been more barreled than your pair of drifties, Scott?
This is a good question. For sure, no pair has gone over the falls as many as my pair. I've been launched on a few, but we have gotten a few little tubes too. So the Driftline, the Drifties by Driftline, I'm a huge fan, and I'm at that age where it's like I'm all about function.
Yeah,
you know, like I don't really care what label. I don't give a crap.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Look, we talked about style follows function. Like proper function on a wave leads to good style. I would argue the same thing is possible with drifties. You perform at your highest level because they're doing their job, and then they look super cool too. So
amen to that, brother. Get your drifties at driftline.co and get a discount from guys here at Spit.
Promo code SPIT for 15% off. Driftline.co. Hey, the El Salvador event. Were you flying and too busy to watch the event?
No, I got heavily involved in that, and it was fascinating. And of course, congratulations to John Florence and Carolyn Marks, who were the winners of the Surf City Pro in El Salvador at Punta Roca. And we had some incredible surfing. You know, I'm one of the first ones to kind of go, oh, it's going to be at El Salvador. You know, it could be 2 to 3 feet and onshore and kind of crumbly and just, you know, not the most pleasing surf or competition to watch. But wow, the final day was incredible. In my opinion, it was just next level. Yago Dora, I mean, I don't know your thoughts. Give me your thoughts on Yago, but I thought the Yago Dora semi against Gabe Medina was so exciting. Yago's creativity and his commitment to next level performance serving is to be commended. In many ways, he forced Gabe Medina sort of to take chances that I didn't think Gabe thought maybe he had to take. And, you know, Gabe Medina was absolutely dominating the competition. He was decimating his competition with high level vertical backside carving. But in his heat, he had to match Yago Dora. Yago Dora came out of the gates just punting massive airs. And it really kind of threw Gabe out of his element, which I thought was interesting. And I really hope that both Yago and Gabe make the final 5.
And John already did by winning this event. So John's already in it, and he would be, you know, a phenomenal counterpoint to those guys surfing. So my to answer your question about what I thought about Yago Dora, I thought Chris Cote actually put it best in that Yago Dora is bringing free surfing to the contest. Like Yago, and then I thought beyond that, and I thought, interestingly, I don't think I've ever seen Gabriel Medina free surf, because even when he's not in a jersey, it looks like he's contest surfing. You know what I mean? So Gabriel Medina is so committed to winning world titles and contests that even when he's on a surf trip, it looks like he's trying to win titles in a contest. Yago Dora was the complete opposite of that. And I think that's what felt so refreshing and raw for us and the judges. And even early in the event, he did like a shove it on a wave that he got a score for. So he ripped the wave, and then he got to kind of the smaller inside section and went for what looked like an air reverse, and then spun the board into a shove it, land it, and then did another turn on the end section. And I thought, I wonder how the judges are going to score that, because it was a functional maneuver. It was a technical maneuver, but it was also functional in the complete, you know, combination of the ride. And it was a mediocre score. It's kind of not the point. The point is he was expressing that level of creativity, outside of the box surfing, forcing the judges to contend with it, forcing them to throw scores at it. And it felt really radical and new. And not every venue on tour calls for it, but this venue happened to. And he wasn't just looking for closeouts to do the one explosive turn. He was doing the one explosive turn on the first, you know, an explosive air actually, on the first section of the wave, and then comboing it up, and tremendous variety. So it wasn't, I think he did a misty flip at some point, but he wasn't recreating that over and over again. He was throwing different grabs, different variations, because when you know, approaching the lip from different angles calls for different grabs. And so he was able to incorporate all that stuff. Listening to the commentary yesterday, they illuminated, it might've been Kaipo Guerrero who illuminated the fact that when Yago's at home in Brazil, he's spending a bunch of time in wave pools. And this is what he's been practicing in wave pools. Variations on airs and grabs that he can then apply in real time, depending on what lip provides the section for him. And he was able to execute all that yesterday.
Yeah, it was incredible. I mean, obviously he's doing stuff that I don't know the names of, but and there was a couple of times when he was sort of telegraphing the air, you know, like he was just kind of getting prepared for the air as he raced down the line. But one of the things that I noticed is that the air game that he applied made his carves look so much, you know, just added to, you know, there was such contrast, because his backside carve surfing was incredible.
Totally.
He's got a lankier body style than Gabe. So I really enjoy watching Yago Dora surf. He's a little bit longer in his backside carving when he goes vertical. And, as you mentioned, a number of different aerials. I mean, he did that one where he sort of switched stance mid aerial. It wasn't super high, but technically the judges have got to be going, what the hell?
Yeah.
And my hat's off to Chris Cote, because, Chris is a skateboarder. I mean, he understands the skate culture. And I think it's important to have somebody like that in the commentary booth.
Kaipo too. Kaipo's phenomenal
Yeah.
with the terms and knowing where the name even came from,
Yeah.
So thrilled to have Yago performing at the level that we've always known that he could, because when he came onto tour, he was a free surf kind of he was like an A-list free surfer at that time. And so it took him a while to kind of unlock the tour, but he has certainly done it this year. And it's really refreshing to see, in, I guess, contrast to Gabe. But Gabe has been surfing out of his skin the last couple events. Kind of the same thing in Tahiti, where he looked like the man to beat throughout all of the early rounds. And then he came up against John, and John pushed him just that extra limit. And you could see Gabe, like Yago, with Yago, he risked a couple of things. He surfed beyond, like he just pushed a little too hard and the wheels barely came off. But that's where we're at. And it makes it a really exciting season to have guys who are distinctly different surfers really performing to their top level and forcing the other one to push it an extra degree. And then you see them just barely fall off when they looked unstoppable prior.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the fact that it looked like Yago put Gabe a little bit out of his element,
Yeah.
and sort of shocked him a little bit and had him a little bit rattled. And we love that, because we rarely see that from Gabe. And so I really sense, and I don't know this, but I hope that there's some sort of rivalry brewing between them. Gabe's got to feel like, he wants to go and get Yago's number in the next heat. Like that's the vibe. Because we both know Gabe's super competitive, and he's probably feeling like, I can't wait till I meet that guy again. And as I mentioned, I certainly hope they both can scramble into the top 5. Of course, that means 2 people would be knocked out, and you know that's unfortunate as well. But I just feel like, first of all, I'm not sure if you saw on Instagram, but Kelly was on Barton Lynch's podcast and basically said John, and Gabe are the 2 best surfers in the world competitively.
Yeah.
And I think we all agree with that. So to not have Gabe in that top 5 would be a little bit of a disappointment. But you know what, Gabe, that's on Gabe. Like he always sort of starts slow, and I think he started slow. Or no, wasn't he like off tour or something, like mental health issues or something? And
At the beginning of this season, I don't remember that.
Yeah.
But interestingly, Yago and Gabe were, after the mid-year cut, I think Yago was last. So he was like 22nd position after the cut. He barely made the cut. And Gabriel was like 19th or something. So in the time since the cut, which is 2 events, those guys have leapfrogged. They both made the semifinals at Chopu. And then, of course, Yago made the final here and Gabe made the semis here. And so they are right on the cusp. And I like that the tour is structured in such a way that you can still, it's not a foregone conclusion at this point in the season who's going to be in the top 5 or the top 10 even. You can still leapfrog. But also, post-cut, this tighter event format is so far superior to the pre-cut version of the tour. Running events in 2 or 3 days, and it's action-packed, and every single heat has kind of marquee names who absolutely could win the event, makes it way more exciting viewing.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm looking at the bottom half of the rankings here, and to make the top 5 right now, you would need 25,000 points. And there's Baron Mamiya could go to Cloudbreak and win it and have 30,000 points. You know what I mean? Like, and he's in 12th place. So, as I look down the line here, there's guys that can still get in there. Now, interestingly, and I'm not, a rankings math, expert, but John's got 41,000 points. The next number 2 is Jack Robinson with 30,000 points. So if Jack was to win, he still wouldn't have as many points as John Florence.
Yep.
So John's in that position that you always mention, where points wise, he should be the champion. You know what I mean? And this is where we were talking about the Bass Pro Tour thing, where, you have the angler of the year as well as the champion of the final event. And Yeah. So your thoughts?
We've been remiss to not discuss John John up until this point, other than the slight mention that he won the event, because John John has been the form surfer of the year, full stop, no questions asked. He is dominating the season, and I think he will continue to. He's won Brazil twice before. He would be a lock at Cloudbreak. And so if he ends up going into finals day and somehow loses at lowers, I mean, we don't need to say again that it's an indictment of the WSL's finals day format, but I think John John would it'd be shocking if John John came back and surfed another season on tour if that happened. If he comes into lowers with this much of a lead, a third world title on the line, and then loses at lowers and doesn't walk away with a title, I think he retires at that point.
Well, he's already taking off, right? I mean, didn't we report on that?
No, Beach Grit posted a rumor that John John would be retiring after this season, but no, he did not state that.
But the rumor was pretty well placed, right? Like
it's not an official statement from John John's camp.
Yeah, okay.
Well, but back to John John and his performance.
Yeah.
I told Chaz last week before this event started, John John posted a clip from Punta Roca the day before the event, a free surf clip.
Yeah.
And I said on air, John John's going to win this event. That is the single best wave I've ever seen surfed at Punta Roca. And it wasn't like a wave. The wave wasn't as big as what we got for the event. Like it was just kind of a shoulder high wave. But the surfing that John John was doing, look, we've seen his power in big waves, but we haven't seen him surf to the nimble speed and ability of Felipe Toledo in waves like that in the past. But we're seeing it this year. John John has somehow unlocked all of his talent, prowess, and power that he used to provide in overhead surf. He's now unlocked how to do that in 4-foot waves at places like Punta Roca. And I think that'll translate to lower trestles as well for finals day. But it was just this free surf clip that he posted was just unbelievably powerful for a relatively small wave. He punted this huge straight air, in a transition, landed it as smooth as could be. I mean, like his landing, he was doing it in the event too. That one huge alley-oop that he got a 10 for. Yeah. He lands in transition, goes straight into a bottom turn, and then zing right up into another powerful snap. These are levels that are just beyond even what we saw Felipe Toledo do when he won Punta Roca, or Griffin Colapinto do. Like this is all of the speed, all of the combinations, but with the level of power that only John John had in the past. He's unlocked it all, even in small waves. So I think John John he's clearly the informed surfer this year, but the surfing that we're seeing from him, we've never seen him do before in this style of wave.
Yeah, I would agree with you. It's going to be incredible. Here's a question for you. I don't even know if it's really a worthy question, but it's something that I was speaking with another surfer about when we were watching the event. Is Punta Roca a better contest wave than lowers? When it's 5 feet at Punta Roca, is it a better contest wave than 5-foot lowers?
Yeah, I think so.
I would not have doubt.
I would not have said that prior to this event, but this event for sure.
I totally agree. And that's what made me, we were looking at it going, God, this is a way better performance wave than lowers. It provides a steeper face, more speed. That's why we saw so much, air game and the power hacks. There's actually a tube section out there that, they're not going to go for the tube, but it's just I think it's a good wave. I mean, and I've been, I wouldn't say I've been critical of it, but you and I've been here kind of going, look, coming after Tahiti, were you looking forward to the event at Punta Roca? I was kind of like, whatever, okay. But watching it, especially the finals day, it was awesome. It was a great event. The finals day was great. And you got to it's funny, you kind of got to tip your hat to the WSL because It's been the best season in a long time. And it's the first season without a CEO for the most part. I know this Ryan Crosby guy's in, but it feels like they've just been running on, I don't know, without having a sort of a central figure to sort of take over the headlines. It's been a blessing.
Totally agree. It's a great season thus far. Pipe was good. Sunset was good. These last two events have been great. It's a little bit of a bummer that Felipe Toledo opted out of the season, because I'd be curious to see how he mixes it up with John when John's performing at this level. And I would venture a guess that he can't. Like at Punta Roca, he can keep up, but those other events that I just mentioned, John would absolutely smoke him. So it's unfortunate, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
I got a question for you, kind of unrelated to that, but did you get to see the Griffin Colapinto and Joao Chianca interference?
Yeah. I
Any
saw what
thoughts?
happened. I mean, my thoughts are he interfered. You know, like
Griff interfered.
Yeah. Joao had priority and Griff paddled underneath him. I mean,
Well, Joao
to me, it was-
paddled at Griffin to enforce an interference, or
I mean,
to force an interference.
I just saw like he was trying to catch the wave, but either way, the rule's the rule.
Yeah.
You know, like if you're saying that you got to get out of the way, you know what I mean?
Well,
It's
yeah.
your
So
job to not be in the way of the guy trying to catch a wave. And if he can paddle at you so that you get interference, you screwed up.
okay. Yeah, Griff. So the way that it looked, the way that it played out was obviously Joao Chianca had priorities paddling for a wave. Griffin Colapinto was paddling out, and he was just closer to the peak than Joao Chianca. So Joao could have just avoided Griffin easily, and Griffin just thought, I've got space here to do a duck dive near the peak of the wave. And Joao at the last second decided to aim at Griffin instead of aiming down the line to take off on the wave.
Hold on. Are those your words or is that what Joao told you?
Those are my words.
Yeah. See, I don't think that's the case. And when I watched it, I never even thought of it like that. And maybe there was some editorializing about that's what he did somewhere on the internet or on Instagram or wherever, but I just saw it sort of without any commentary. I just watched it objectively without sound. And it looked to me like he was just trying to get into position, like where the wave is breaking. He was trying to be deep. Like that's what you do. You and I do that as surfers. We paddle for the deepest, steepest part of the wave to garner the most speed.
I'll take the opposite angle then. I think that Joao absolutely did it as an opportunity to force the interference, because he didn't need to fade on that takeoff. He had a total easy line, and Griffin, to your point, knows to get out of the way, and Griffin realized Joao doesn't need to fade here, so I'm in the clear. All I got to do is duck dive. But at the last minute, Joao did aim towards him, and he was at that point in the way. That's the way that I saw it. But aside from your and my opinion on how we viewed it, if Joao did in fact try to force an interference, do you have any thoughts on that? Does that make you feel like it's less sportsmanlike, or do you feel like it is what it is?
I think it's good.
Okay.
I think it's good for competition. I think competition requires conflict. I think the one thing that lacks in surfing is defense. And I think it's the reason we're talking about surfing right now. Besides the great performances we mentioned, it's good. It's good for surfing. It's good for, water cooler talk. It's fun to talk about. I think it's part of the competition. It's part of the rules. You should do it every single time. If I was a coach, I'd be saying, do it. You instantly win the heat. Basically, you got to be an idiot to not win the heat if your competitor gets an interference.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with that. The reason why I'm pissed about it is because Griffin Colapinto was my survival pick.
Yeah, I thought I'd advanced survival myself with Barramamia, but apparently with the new cut, you got to go further than just the first round. So I'm out as well.
You got to go to the quarters now.
Yeah, I'm out. I got this email that said I'm out. I'm like, what?
Yeah. Yeah. What a bummer, dude. And so Griff looked the goods too, because Griff had like a 9.73, I think, in that heat. So, and he won the event. I think
Avatar.
What?
Griffin Colapinto. He's like Avatar. He like did his hair. Did you see did his hair like the Avatar cartoon? He's all into Avatar.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I didn't either until it was pointed out to me. They're like, yeah, you got an Avatar haircut. I thought on purpose, like he's into Avatar, which is fine, whatever. I don't care either way. I just thought it was interesting.
You talking about the blue figures from the James Cameron movie?
Yeah.
Okay.
And now there's a little TV cartoon that apparently he watches.
Oh, okay. Wow, that's weird.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, I thought Owen Wright, wasn't he had some nickname that was like based on that. I forget.
Mm.
Because he's long, skinny, and lanky. Anyways, bummer to see Griff lose in that. However, great to see Joao kind of back. And the couple of waves of Joao's that were his highest scoring rides, he looked fully back in form. And I think his surfing adds a lot to the tour. So I'm glad to have him back.
Yeah. I like Joao just because he's gritty. You know, he's that gritty guy.
Yeah.
And I dig that. It's good for sport.
Yeah.
Speaking of sport, although this isn't a sport, this may interest you. The 8 Shapers honoring Bob McTavish and the Icons of Foam coming up at the October Boardroom International Surfboard Show, which is presented by US Blanks, have been confirmed. I mentioned 7 of them, but we had one that was sort of dangling and we weren't sure. So we've got all 8: Michael Arenal, Ryan Birch, Jordan Brazy, Axel Lorentz, Grant Noble, Josh Hall, Moon from Korea.
Oh, right. Moon. I forgot about Moon.
Yeah. And your guy, Simon Jones, is confirmed. So Simon Jones is the 8th and final competitor in the shape off. They'll be replicating Bob McTavish designs as a way to honor Bob McTavish. So we're pretty excited about all 8 have been confirmed and we're ready to go. We're ready to get it all locked and loaded here.
I am so excited that worked out. So I got an email from those guys that Simon wanted to come out and be a part of the boardroom show. And he said he wanted to do like a shaping, like, is there an opportunity to do a shaping exhibition? I'm like, well, there's one opportunity. It is the thing. And you'd be an incredible get. So I emailed Scott hoping that there was that spot still open. So I'm glad. I'm thrilled to hear that this came together.
Yeah, I am too. I got an email from Jackie, Bob McTavish's, associate, and she said, "Yeah, Simon Jones is in." So
Amazing, dude.
Yeah, it's going to be cool.
Quite a
Quite a lineup of shapers, hand shaped surfboards.
Incredible. So, Simon, by the way, is the coolest, salt of the earth, normal, nice dude. Like, he is such a joy and pleasure to be around. So I'm just glad that he's going to come out and we're going to be able to hang with him. He is so cool.
Yeah, I know. I'm excited too. It's going to be a great event. And of course, a massive hall filled with the entire surfboard building manufacturing industry. So it's going to be great stuff. And we're selling booths rapidly, and it's shaping up to be a really great boardroom show. And we've got 4 or 5 months here until October, but I just wanted to let the listeners know that all 8 shapers have been confirmed for the shaping competition, the Icons of Foam.
Has Josh Hall ever participated in this before?
I don't think so. He may have. I don't think so. No, he may have one of the first ones we did. I know he got a booth at one of the first ones.
Okay. I'm excited to see Josh involved in it too. Like, Josh, he shows up every year and he watches very, very keenly. Like, he is attentive. He like comes just to watch Thomas Beckson shape last year, and he's just like paying attention to everything just as a student of shaping. And so, and he's obviously incredibly well respected and talented with the boards that he makes. And so I'm excited to see how he factors into this.
I am too. I'm stoked that Josh is involved. And really, when you look at the lineup, it's just a great lineup because they're relatively young guys, guys in their 20s and 30s for the most part. Michael Arenal, Ryan Birch, Jordan Brazy, Grant Noble is pretty young, I think. Josh is probably in his 40s. I don't really know how old Josh is. Moon, who knows? Moon from Korea. I have no idea. Total wild card. That'll be fun.
The moon is as old as the solar system, dude.
Right. I mean, he's got to be old, right?
He's timeless, ageless, all-knowing, omnipresent.
Yeah, represents so much. It's incredible. So yeah,
shifts the tides around the planet.
Yeah, I mean, has a lot of gravitational pull, so it's going to be good.
Well, Simon Jones, this is not. I have no business affiliation with Simon Jones at all, but
except for he makes your boards.
No, I tried, dude. The answer is no, he doesn't. I got one board from him years ago. I tried to get 2 more in the last 2 years, and he says yes. And then, like I haven't gotten those boards yet. So maybe
Yeah.
I'll be able to get one by the time the boardroom show comes around. But what I was going to say for people who do want to get boards from him is Morning of the Earth was that surfboard label. I think he's still doing Morning of the Earth boards. Obviously, there's worldwide demand for his boards in the last 5 years. And so he has kind of split the business. So there is still Morning of the Earth that he will make a board for you from. And then he also has Simon Jones Designs now, which is, I think, opened it up to where maybe there's more than one shaper working. So they can, they're all his designs and they're all the same style of boards, same designs that they were using under the Morning of the Earth label. But now they have more people working in that factory to be able to be able to kind of fill the demand that there is for those boards. So I don't know if I don't want to say they're computer cut. Maybe they're not. I don't know if I don't think he's hand shaping all of those. Maybe he has 1 or 2 other shapers working under him to, make those boards. But look into it. If you want to get a board now, it's easier than ever through the Simon Jones Designs label.
Yeah. I remember one of the first Torn Martin movies, and maybe you can help me with this, but they pulled down like a smaller fish that I think Torn had maybe pulled from the rafters of Simon's house or something. And from that board, he loved that board, but then they made a bigger version of that board. Do you recall that? Am I getting it right?
I don't remember.
Anyway, the reason I bring that up is that if in fact I'm correct, I thought there was like a small, cool little like 5/8 fish. That would be the cool board to have Simon make, like one of a copy of the original one that really grabbed Torrin's imagination.
Yeah. The one that I ordered a couple years ago was the one that Mason Ho picked for the electric acid surfboard test.
Oh,
The
yeah.
model was called a Go-Go, and it actually is similar to what you're talking about. It is, but it's a channel bottom.
Yeah.
Like twin channel bottom, but like that 5/8 range. So.
Oh, really? You got a small one? I thought you had like a 610 or something.
No, dude, I ordered the small one.
Oh, I see.
And
Yeah. I've seen you ride the 7.2 or like 610 or something.
Yeah, 610. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I ordered the small one. I just never got it. So maybe at the boardroom show I can finally collect.
We'll see. Okay. Well, look, what else do you got for us? Do you have a must-see moment presented by Treeswax?
I do have a must-see moment presented by Treeswax, and it's a very important one. Greg Long took to Instagram about a week ago to ask for your help. We need your help to sign a petition. San Onofre State Beach or San Onofre State Park is at risk. The California State Parks lease is expiring in August. So in 2 months from now, from what I understand, they were leasing this land for $1, basically. Yeah. They got this
from
grandfather,
Navy, right? From the federal government.
Yeah. And they were paying $1. Like that lease for that land is worth, who knows, hundreds of millions of dollars. You know what I mean? Like who could put a price on it actually? Totally undeveloped, or not totally, but largely undeveloped coastal California, with the primest real estate, most expensive real estate, the public has access to this land through this lease. Valuable stretch of coastline for its surf breaks alone. We want to surf these spots. This is Trestles. This is San Onofre. And so the Surfrider Foundation, surfrider.org, has a petition that you can sign in a campaign to help protect this land. Ultimately, there's a possibility that we can lease the land again. We're probably not going to get it for $1, but if we can get it for a reasonable amount of money and it provides beach or public access, and we can continue to use it in the same way that we've been using it for all these decades, that is the ultimate goal. And so we need people to sign the petition to let the legislators know that we want it. We have access to it currently. We love it. And by the way, it's important to protect California's coastlines from development. We don't want it to be completely developed all the way from Mexico to Oregon. We want opportunities like this for our families and us to be able to go enjoy the natural resource.
Yeah, I mean, if you're interested in the backstory on this, and I don't know it perfectly, but from what I understand, back in I guess it was after World War II, so it would have been Eisenhower administration. there were some guys that were surfing San Onofre, and at some point, federal government's like, hey, this is probably going to be off limits.
Mm-hmm.
And there was Navy guys, Marine guys, like officers that were surfing at San Onofre that fell in love with the lifestyle of surfing, that had connections, that were like, big time officers that said, hey, why don't we just carve a road in here, keep the road, and let us use it, and we'll give you some money for it. We'll lease the land, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it was basically a surfer who kind of gave us the ability to keep having access there. And I'm probably butchering. I know Greg Long, and for sure his dad, Steve, knows the full history there, or any of the guys that live, like any of the shack guys, any of the guys up in that area know the full deep history of it, but it's pretty fascinating. And I would urge everybody to do what David's suggesting, is take a look at what Greg Long is saying, sign the petition. And it's, those negotiations are happening right now.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
But
so,
there's power in numbers. And so if the legislators who are making the decisions and going to negotiate these deals can say, we have 100,000 signatures, that's more meaningful than we have 1,000 signatures. And
Yeah.
so you don't have to live locally to sign this petition. It's on surfrider.org. They have an actions tab that you can find what the current initiatives are, but we will link to it in today's show notes. And I'm going to actually link to it through social media and my stories as well, to drive as much attention to it as possible. But we're not asking you for money. You don't have to sign up for anything. You just put your name in and sign the form. And yeah.
It would be really interesting if the federal government didn't allow access to this land, to these beaches. For one, it's widely accepted that the 2028 Olympics are going to be held at Lowers. The surfing competition is going to be at Lowers. That's kind of, I don't know that for sure, but it seems the obvious place, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And that wouldn't happen if so, where would you have it? Malibu, probably.
Yeah. It's hard to imagine a life without access to this. It's such a important role to Southern California surf culture.
Well, surfers are going to find ways to surf that way. It would turn into such a chaos.
Yeah.
There's, anyway.
Well,
David, look, that's a great messy moment presented by Trees Wax. We've said a lot. We've got a lot of great South swell in the water, by the way. There's so much content coming out from the Southern Hemisphere. Just the Southern Ocean, the South Pacific Ocean is just churning out swell after swell. There's, content from Tahiti and Puerto Escondido and from Nias and from Bali and just from all over. It seems to be never ending. So that's good news. But David, tell you what, until next time, adios and aloha.